Doing this, go subscribe. This reaction, and I saw this late last night. His reaction is all you need to know.
Make sure they deny. What do you think they're going to run here?
Game first season opener ever in the history of this league.
And I want to know who she's talking to. Bree January is on the right side right here drinking. Who could she have been asking this question to?
That's not a coach with a plan. That's a coach asking her assistant staff what play Dallas is about to run in the final minute of a home opener against a team that won 10 games last season. Let that sink in for a second. This is Stephanie White, the supposed defensive mastermind who is going to transform the Indiana Fever. The coach who was brought in specifically to fix everything that went wrong last season. And in the most critical moment of her first game, she's looking around asking, what do you think they're going to run here? While her players stare at her waiting for answers she doesn't have.
The fallout is getting, the fandom getting loud. By fandom, I mean Caitlin Clark fandom. You had a lot of things coming out of that. You had the great mystery of back injury. Is it a back injury compensating for something else? Was it a hip flexor? Was it a groin? ABC threw that out there, and everybody immediately, I'm looking at the TV going, wait, what? What are we talking about here? We're doing the injury thing again. They're saying it's precautionary.
The fallout from this loss is unlike anything we've seen in WNBA social media history. The Fever posted the final score on their official account, and the response was brutal. 1.5 thousand likes against nearly 400 comments. That ratio tells you everything you need to know about how fans are feeling right now. And these aren't just casual observers throwing shade. These are people who watched Iowa basketball for 2 years straight. People who know what elite basketball looks like. People who can spot coaching incompetence from a mile away because they've been consuming high-level basketball for decades.
Yesterday is the second team, the second unit, the bench is not good. It's not. I said yesterday, I watched the Liberty play the other day. The game had gotten so far away, they had their second unit. Their second unit would beat the living shit out of our second unit. They'll run us out of the building. If we're not careful, they will run us out of the building.
Here's what nobody wanted to talk about during the preseason. The bench is not good. The second unit would get absolutely destroyed by other contending teams' reserves. When the Liberty's second string can run you out of your own building, you've got a roster construction problem that no amount of optimism can fix. The lack of length, too many guards, all the issues people dismissed as negativity during training camp were on full display in this game. And now those same fans who said just wait and see are the ones melting down in the comments demanding trades and coaching changes.
I got to tell you, I was having a conversation behind the scenes and we were talking about automatic wins. The only automatic wins we could think of behind the scenes in a conversation between 3 or 4 of us was the sun and the fire as automatic wins against this team. Everybody else got a chance. To be real, you know the Toronto tempo?
Let's talk about what automatic wins actually look like for this roster. In private conversations with other analysts, we could only identify 2 teams the Fever should beat consistently, the Sun and the Sparks. That's it. 2 automatic wins in a 40-game season. Notice what's not on that list? Toronto, Portland, Dallas. These are teams that struggled last year, and yet there's no confidence this Fever roster can handle them. That should terrify Indiana fans, because it means this team is looking at potentially finishing in the same basement they occupied last season, except now they've got the biggest star in women's basketball and a sold-out arena every night.
Here we go. So the Fever posted this, the final score. Holy hellfire. I mean, 1.5, 1.6 thousand likes to nearly 400 comments. That is not the ratio that you are trying to see. Fire White, no size playing, CC off ball. She does what she does, not work. Then talks trash about Caitlin Clark fans. Look in the audience, what do you see? I got to tell you. These ladies act like we haven't spent the last 6 decades watching the best basketball on earth. We know what it's supposed to look like. Yeah, I mean, if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s of the NBA, you know what real good basketball is supposed to look like. Find a coach that can build around Clark, manage Mitchell.
The comment section reads like a fan revolt. Fire White appears multiple times. She has not a clue. Gets hundreds of likes. Defensive-minded players made sure that the defense became 100 times worse than last season is the kind of devastating critique that cuts deep because it's objectively true. Dallas shot the lights out, yes, but they got those looks because Indiana's defense was lost. Players were out of position. Rotations were confused. And when adjustments needed to be made, the head coach was asking her assistants for help instead of providing answers. That's not a one-game fluke. That's a systemic problem. One fan wrote, "How the hell does AB only got 4 rebounds? And that's a legitimate question about Aaliyah Boston, your supposed defensive anchor." Another asked, "Why is Raven Johnson not playing more minutes when she's one of your few legitimate defenders?" These aren't unreasonable takes from angry trolls. These are basketball questions that deserve basketball answers.
Or traitor. Make this team something people wants to watch. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Messy. The Wings shot their asses off. I'm not worried. Okay. And there they go again. Not me anymore. I'm a Washington Mystics fan now. My boy Carlos Garcia just said, hell with it. I'm out. Perhaps not the best, but really fun to watch with such a young roster progress. By Indiana Fever. Hey, look. I mean, you know, what are we going to say? Clark had a shocker, literally looked like, for most of that game, like she could not be arsed and clearly lost her confidence.
The most telling comments are the ones about Caitlin Clark herself. Clark had a shocker, literally looked like for most of that game, like she could not be arsed, and clearly lost her confidence in a Fever jersey. That's not an attack. That's an observation about body language and effort level from someone who watched her dominate college basketball for 4 years. When your franchise player looks disengaged in the home opener with a sold-out crowd, that's a coaching problem. When she's not getting the ball in positions to succeed, that's a scheme problem. When nobody's setting screens for her while she gets hacked all night, that's a culture problem. And here's what makes it worse. Some Fever fans are starting to turn on Caitlin herself. There's infighting within the fan base now. Some influencers are trying to act like everything is fine, posting toxic positivity while the team burns. Others are in full crash-out mode demanding wholesale changes. The split is real, and it's growing.
Have to play more defense. They let the Wings get a lot of open shots. And then you have Dantis fouls within 10 minutes that kept Wings players going to the lines. Stephanie White asking anyone, what do you think they're going to run? Because she has not a clue. Sloppy-ass game, losing to the effing Wings at home. Trash defense, uncoordinated offense. A lot of work to do. Boy, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you now. Defensive-minded players made sure that the defense became 100 times worse than last season. Honestly, it's pretty clear to say fire Stephanie White. How the hell does AB only got 4 rebounds? Why is...
Look at this comment. Defensive-minded players made sure that the defense became 100 times worse than last season. Think about what that means. Stephanie White's entire reputation was built on defense. That was the selling point. That was why she got hired. She was supposed to bring structure, discipline, and defensive identity to a team that couldn't stop anybody. Instead, Dallas scored 110 points at Indiana. In the home opener, the Wings, a team that won 10 games last year, came into Gainbridge Fieldhouse and put up video game numbers. Where's the defensive identity? Where's the structure? Where's literally anything that justifies the defensive mastermind label? And the roster construction makes it worse. You can't play defense without length. You can't protect the rim with too many small guards. These are basketball fundamentals, not advanced analytics. This is stuff you learn watching basketball for a few years, let alone the decades some of these fans have invested.
Playing more minutes. MHA and DD are effing trash. Cut or trade them. They do nothing. Give Caitlin the effing ball. Why does no one on the Fever set screens for Caitlin when she is literally...
Here's what makes this situation particularly volatile. The expectations aren't just high because of Caitlin Clark. They're high because fans watched 2 years of elite basketball at Iowa. They know what a well-coached team looks like. They know what happens when you design an offense around your best players' strengths. They know what competent defensive rotations look like. So when they see Stephanie White asking, "What do you think they're going to run here?" in the final minute, it confirms their worst fears. When they see the bench getting torched, it validates concerns they raised months ago. When they see Caitlin looking disengaged, it breaks their hearts because they know she's capable of so much more in the right system. The comment "won't win" simple. Dallas is a shit team, still lost with that crowd, captures the frustration perfectly. This wasn't a moral victory. This wasn't a close loss to a contender where you see progress. This was a home loss to a bad team in front of the best crowd in WNBA history. That's inexcusable. And the Caitlin Clark men, "Wow, it's becoming ugly" comment shows how the narrative is shifting. This isn't just about one bad game anymore. This is about whether the Fever organization is capable of building a winner around generational talent. This is about whether Stephanie White is the right coach for this moment. This is about whether the roster construction makes any sense at all. The fan who said, "I'm a Washington Mystics fan now, I'm out," represents something dangerous for the Fever. When you lose the Caitlin Clark fans who followed her from Iowa, you lose the television ratings. You lose the merchandise sales. You lose the sold-out arenas. The Fever's entire business model depends on keeping those fans engaged, and right now, they're hemorrhaging goodwill at an alarming rate. Think about the pressure this puts on the front office. They sold this team as a contender. They marketed Stephanie White as the solution. They convinced fans that adding a few defensive pieces would transform the roster. And now, one game in, the entire narrative is collapsing. The social media ratio is embarrassing. The comments are brutal. The vibes are terrible. What happens if this continues? What happens when they face actual contenders like New York or Las Vegas? What happens when the schedule gets harder and the losses pile up? Do they make a coaching change mid-season? Do they blow up the roster at the trade deadline? Do they just ride it out and hope things improve? Because here's the reality. Caitlin Clark isn't going anywhere. She's under contract. She's the franchise. Everything has to be built around her. And if the current structure isn't working, something has to change. Either the coach adapts or the coach gets replaced. Either the roster gets retooled or the front office gets fired. There's no middle ground when you're losing at home to 10-win teams. The comment section shows fans understand this. They're not being unreasonable. They're not overreacting to one game. They're recognizing patterns they've seen before. They're calling out problems that were obvious during the preseason. They're demanding accountability from an organization that promised so much and delivered so little in Game 1. So the question becomes, does Stephanie White have the self-awareness to adjust? Can she design an offense that actually uses Caitlin's strengths? Can she fix a defense that somehow got worse despite adding defensive-minded players? Can she manage rotations that make sense? Can she have answers in crucial moments instead of asking her assistants for help? Because if the answer to any of those questions is no, this season is going to be a disaster. And all those fans who followed Caitlin from Iowa, they'll find other teams to support. They'll tune out. They'll move on. And the Fever will be right back where they started, an irrelevant franchise playing in front of empty arenas wondering what could have been. That's what makes this loss so significant. It's not just 3 games in the standings. It's a referendum on everything the organization claimed to fix. And right now, based on the evidence, they failed the test spectacularly.